You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
When it comes to ensuring your company has top-notch security practices, things can get complicated fast. Vanta automates compliance for SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and more, saving you time and money. With Vanta, you can streamline security reviews by automating questionnaires and demonstrating your security posture with a customer-facing trust center. Over 7,000 global companies like Atlassian, Flow Health, and Quora use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. Our listeners can claim a special offer of $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/cyber. That's VANTA.com/cyber for $1,000 off Vanta. Dutch military intelligence warns of the Chinese Coathanger RAT. Pure Storage joins the growing list of Snowflake victims. JetBrains patches a GitHub IDE vulnerability. A data broker hits the brakes on selling driver location data. Flaws in VLC Media Player allow remote code execution. We got some Patch Tuesday updates. On our Learning Layers segment, hosts Sam Meisenberg and Joe Carrigan continue their discussion of Joe's ISC2 CISSP certification journey, taking on Domain 8 software development security. And farewell computer engineering legend Lynn Conway. It's Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. The Dutch Military Intelligence and Security Service has issued a warning about an extensive Chinese cyber espionage campaign. According to the National Cybersecurity Center, state-sponsored hackers exploited a vulnerability in FortiGate devices for 2 months before it was disclosed. This zero-day attack infected 14,000 devices, targeting Western governments, international organizations, and defense companies. Dutch officials revealed that the hackers breached the Dutch Ministry of Defense's network, deploying the Coathanger remote access Trojan. The ongoing investigation shows the hackers accessed at least 20,000 FortiGate systems globally in 2022 and 23. Identifying and removing the Coathanger malware remains challenging, and many systems likely remain compromised. Cloud storage provider Pure Storage confirmed a breach in its Snowflake workspace, exposing telemetry data, customer names, usernames, and email addresses. No credentials or customer data were compromised. The breach was promptly addressed, and Pure Storage found no evidence of further malicious activity. Over 11,000 customers, including high-profile companies like Meta and NASA, use Pure Storage's platform. Snowflake, working with Mandiant and CrowdStrike, have confirmed that attackers exploited stolen credentials from InfoStealer malware to breach accounts lacking multi-factor authentication. These attacks, linked to the threat actor UNC 5537, have impacted around 165 organizations. Recent breaches at Santander, Ticketmaster, and Advance Auto Parts are associated with this campaign, highlighting the ongoing threat to Snowflake customers. Integrated development environment provider JetBrains has fixed a critical vulnerability in its GitHub plugin for IntelliJ-based IDEs, which could expose GitHub access tokens. The flaw, reported on May 29th, allowed malicious content in pull requests to access these tokens, risking unauthorized access to GitHub accounts and repositories. Affected IDEs include Aqua, Clion, DataGrip, DataSpell, Goland, IntelliJ IDEA, MPS, PHP Storm, PyCharm, Rider, RubyMine, RustRover, and WebStorm. Users should update their IDEs and revoke any GitHub tokens used by the plugin. Google's IntelliJ-based Android Studio users should also upgrade and revoke tokens. JetBrains confirmed no evidence of active exploitation before the fix, but emphasized prompt updates to minimize risks. Meanwhile, GitHub users are facing a phishing and extortion campaign exploiting the site's notification system and a malicious OAuth app. Attackers mention users in comments, triggering legitimate email notifications from GitHub. These comments mimic GitHub staff, offering jobs or alerting to security breaches, and direct users to fake GitHub domains. Approving the OAuth request allows attackers to wipe repositories and demand ransom via Telegram to recover data. Compromised accounts are then used to perpetuate the scam. Max Gannon from Cofense highlights that while attackers, dubbed GitLocker, seem low-skilled and extortion-focused, the incident underscores the risk of supply chain attacks and the need for vigilance in tracking code sources. Further evidence links GitLocker to additional extortion attempts demanding payments to prevent data exposure. General Motors recently faced backlash for selling driver behavior data to brokers, who then resold it to insurers. In response, data broker Verisk stopped accepting data from car makers like GM, Honda, and Hyundai and ceased providing driving behavior reports to insurers. Privacy for Cars confirmed this after inquiring with Verisk. However, LexisNexis Risk Solutions continues to promote its driver behavior data product to insurers, despite criticism from state governments and consumer groups. Their telematics on-demand service still markets partnerships with automakers, including Kia, Subaru, and Mitsubishi. LexisNexis emphasizes responsible data use and transparency, but the auto industry's data-sharing practices face increasing scrutiny from state and federal authorities. Videoland disclosed critical vulnerabilities in the popular VLC Media player that could allow remote code execution. Both desktop and iOS versions are affected. On the desktop, an integer overflow in handling MMS streams can lead to a heap overflow, potentially crashing the player or executing arbitrary code. Users should update to version 3.0.21 and avoid untrusted MMS streams. On iOS, a Wi-Fi file-sharing path traversal vulnerability could allow local network attacks, leading to a denial of service. Users should update to version 3.5.9 to mitigate this risk. Yesterday was Patch Tuesday, and Microsoft released updates for 51 security flaws. Key updates include 18 RCE vulnerabilities with one critical flaw in Microsoft Message queuing, 25 elevation of privilege vulnerabilities, 3 information disclosure vulnerabilities, and 5 denial of service vulnerabilities. The disclosed zero-day involves a DNSSEC validation flaw causing CPU exhaustion, potentially leading to a denial of service. It was previously disclosed in February and has been patched in multiple DNS implementations. Other notable fixes include Microsoft Office RCEs and Windows kernel privilege elevation flaws, enhancing overall system security. June's 2024 Patch Tuesday brings critical security updates from several ICS vendors, including Siemens, Schneider Electric, Aviva, and the U.S. cybersecurity agency CISA. Siemens issued 14 new advisories addressing over 120 vulnerabilities, with patches and mitigations available. Most flaws affect third-party components known since last year. Notable issues include a critical authentication bypass in the PowerSys service for PowerLink 5100 and SWT 3000, allowing local attackers to gain admin privileges. High-severity code execution vulnerabilities were also patched. Aviva released 2 advisories. One highlights a high-severity local code execution vulnerability in the PI Asset Framework client. The other addresses a remote code execution flaw in the PI Web API, both related to deserialization of untrusted data. Schneider Electric published 5 advisories covering 11 vulnerabilities. In Sage RTUs, a critical authentication bypass and other high-severity issues were fixed, including disruption and unauthorized uploads. Additional medium-severity flaws were addressed in Modicon M340 controllers, PowerLogic P5 relays, EV-Link Home Smart EV chargers, and Space Logic controllers, preventing unauthorized firmware updates, device hijacking, and denial of service attacks. CISA released several ICS advisories, including a high-severity denial of service vulnerability in Rockwell automation controllers, critical code execution and data exposure in Intrado 911 emergency gateway, and high-severity information disclosure and code execution flaws in micro-DICOM software. Coming up after the break, Sam Meisenberg and Joe Carrigan continue their discussion of Joe's ISC2 CISSP certification journey. Stay with us. With over 8,000 threat hunters analyzing over 65 trillion signals daily, Microsoft works tirelessly with the federal government to keep our nation's data secure. This 30-year-plus partnership is driving mission innovation that is secure by design. Whether optimizing your existing defenses or tackling advanced threats with AI, Microsoft gives you the intelligence and the automation you need to defend at mission scale. Let's work together to stay ahead of emerging threats and secure your mission anywhere. Learn more at aka.ms/fedcyber. That's aka.ms/fedcyber. Struggling to secure on-prem apps with modern identity? Don't worry, you're not alone. Join industry leaders from Fortune 500 organizations to secure your apps on any cloud with any IDP, regardless of your environment's complexity. Meet Strata's identity orchestration platform, Mavericks. Say goodbye to the headaches of app refactoring and legacy tech debt. With identity orchestration, you can modernize legacy apps to use MFA or passwordless authentication in a few weeks, migrate from one IDP to another, and so much more without changing the app. No matter your IAM use case, Strata extends the value of your current identity investments. And the best part? You can try it for free today. Visit strata.io/cyberwire to share your biggest identity challenge, and they'll hook you up with a complimentary pair of AirPods Pro. Don't miss out. Visit strata.io/cyberwire. That's strata.io/cyberwire. On today's Learning Layer segment, our hosts Sam Meisenberg and Joe Carrigan are once again together to discuss Joe's ISC2 CISSP certification journey. Today they're taking on Domain 8 Software Development Security.
Welcome back to Learning Layer. Today, on the Learning Layer segment, we're continuing our conversation with Joe Carrigan as he gets ready for his CISSP. Mm-hmm. Joe, Domain 8.
Domain 8.
The final domain.
I have a degree in Domain 8.
Okay, so I don't even know why we're talking.
Right.
No, you always got to study even your strengths.
And remember, I didn't do too well in the pretest in that.
Right, and it's this weird thing where you have so much experience and so much knowledge, yet sometimes that real-world experience doesn't translate to exam world, and ISC2 might have their own
right
reality.
Yes.
So, let's do a question together.
Okay.
So why don't you start by reading the question, and then we'll do our usual thinking about it, and then go find the right answer.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The question reads as this. At which step of the SDLC, the software development lifecycle, should security considerations be first integrated? That's the question.
Okay, so actually, I know I asked you for some analysis. Let me do one thing of my own.
Okay.
From a humanities major who used to be a speechwriter.
Okay.
Weird syntax. Like, let's think about what these words are actually saying. At which step should security considerations? So consideration is kind of a soft word, right? It's not like we're doing security necessarily. We're just thinking about it.
Right.
We're considering it.
Yep.
And then it says be integrated. So like, I guess as somebody who's done, or managed SDLCs before, what does like an integration mean?
First thing I think when I see the word integrated is I think about integrations and making two pieces of different tech work together. Maybe you're going to make some middleware or something, but that's not what this means. This is at what point in time, at what part of the SDLC should you be considering security as part of the product? Because you're going to have some kind of security stance on this product, regardless of whether you acknowledge it or not. It could be a terrible stance, and generally, I'll bet if you don't acknowledge it, it will be a bad stance.
Yeah.
So the question is asking, when should you start thinking about security, really, for whatever this project or product is?
Sure.
And the answer to that question is as early as possible.
As early as possible.
As early as possible, because if you go to the end of development and you say, okay, now let's make it secure, you have already done all the requirements gathering, all the designing, all the development, and maybe some of the testing, and now you're saying, let's patch on security at the end. That's what you're going to be doing, is patching on security at the end.
Yeah.
You need to think about security as soon as you're defining what the system is going to do. So my initial answer, as we say, you frequently remind me, try to pick an option. I'm going to say at the concept of operations, right? Which is part of the waterfall life cycle and also part of the systems engineering life cycle. Very first thing, you're coming up with a concept of operations. Security considerations should be considered there. They should be integrated into that portion and that document that you're going to come up with.
So bake security into the product. Don't bolt it on after.
Yes.
Why don't we read the answer choices?
Right.
So,
the answer choices, number one, are functional requirements defining.
Okay.
Which might seem like a good place, requirements definition.
Sure.
That comes almost exactly after concept of operations. Then number two is project initialization and planning. So right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. Testing and evaluation control. So that's all the way towards the end. Okay. Right. And then system design specifications, and that's after requirements generally.
Okay.
So no, that's not good. Testing at the end is not good. Functional requirements defining, maybe you're okay starting there, but I would say you're better off starting at project initiation and planning, that you put security in there as part of the definition of the system.
I have two sort of reactions to this question and how you approached it.
Okay.
The first is, what's interesting? Every single one of these steps has a security component to it.
It does.
But that's not what the question was asking.
No.
The question is asking, when should you first do it?
Right.
My second reaction is, and this was hard especially for me when I was studying Domain 8 without a background in it, some of the, words or labels for the SDLC steps can get a little abstract.
Yeah.
And, everybody sometimes has a different name for it.
Right.
So you can still get this question right without, fully memorizing or being familiar with what happens in all the steps. Meaning, taking your pre-phrase of as early as possible,
right?
You just need to ask yourself,
which one of these is earliest?
Which one sounds like it happens first? Do you do a project planning first, or do you do a functional requirements first? Well, it makes sense. You probably need to scope out the project first and think about it and plan, and then functional requirements might come after.
Right.
So without knowing what happens, I would pick B as well.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
All right. And let's find out what the right answer is. Drum roll. Nailed it. Nice.
Okay, good.
And it is B.
Very good.
So I'll give you the final word since it's Domain 8. Any parting thoughts?
Yes, I do want to say something about what you said, in that there is security in all of these things. So you're going to be, when you're developing some kind of software project, there is something called a requirements traceability matrix, an RTM, that takes takes your code or your behaviors or your use cases all the way back. Everything goes all the way back to the requirements, which will also point back to something in the concept of operations. So you're right that system design should have security components in it. You should definitely be testing and evaluating the entirety of the software, including the security that is implemented. And you should be able to trace those requirements all the way back to the requirements and even before then to the concept of operations.
All right, Joe. We keep saying we're in the home stretch. We're actually in the home stretch.
We're actually done with the material now. Now it's just time for practicing and taking the tests.
That's right. And everything will come together. It feels like ages ago when you started Domain 1.
Indeed.
So it's time to reintroduce it and blend it all together.
And now, a word from our sponsor, Zscaler, the leader in cloud security. Cyber attackers are using AI in creative ways to compromise users and breach organizations. In a security landscape where you must fight AI with AI, the best AI protection comes from having the best data. Zscaler has extended its zero trust architecture with powerful AI engines that are trained and tuned by 500 trillion daily signals. Learn more about Zscaler Zero Trust Plus AI to prevent ransomware and AI attacks. Experience your world secured. Visit zscaler.com/zerotrustai.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
That's Sam Meisenberg, along with my Hacking Humans co-host, Joe Carrigan. And finally, we note the passing of former IBM and Xerox PARC engineer Lynn Conway. She achieved remarkable success in the 1960s and 70s, despite facing intense personal and professional challenges, including her transgender transition. Conway passed away Sunday from a heart condition, leaving behind a legacy of groundbreaking contributions to technology and society. Her pivotal work in computer engineering began at IBM and later at Xerox PARC, where she collaborated with Carver Mead on VLSI design, revolutionizing microprocessor technology and impacting millions of PCs. She also led a supercomputer program at DARPA and became a professor at the University of Michigan. In 2020, IBM formally apologized for firing Conway in 1968 due to her gender transition, recognizing her courage and influence. Beyond her technical achievements, Conway was a beacon of hope and inspiration for the transgender community. She fought against discrimination and provided guidance through her personal website, offering role models and hope for many undergoing gender transition. Conway's story of resilience includes overcoming being barred from seeing her daughters for 14 years and working her way up through various startups before her significant contributions at Xerox PARC. Her life's work enriched both the technological and transgender communities, providing profound inspiration and advancing the cause of equality and acceptance. Lynn Conway's legacy is one of remarkable bravery and resilience. She not only faced her challenges, but prevailed over them, leaving an indelible mark on the world and enriching the lives of countless individuals. And that's the Cyberwire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karp. Simone Petrella is our president, Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.